Hey, this is Scott Hambrick at scotthambrick.com. And of course, you can go to our Telegram channel. It's t.me/Scott Stream. When you get there, go look through the pinned post, and then that will direct you to our chat, which is really good. We've got a friend at in the Telegram chat who lost his job the other day. He was actually out at my house. He's an internet friend. He was out at my house and he said, "Man, I resigned from my job because I had to because they were demanding that I get the vaccine, and he didn't want that. So he said, but it's good news because I just got hired. I start Monday um, at a new job with higher pay, and they don't require the vaccine." And I was mightily pleased for him. Who wouldn't be, right? Well, here it is, about 2 or 3 weeks later, and he says, "For anyone doubting Hambrick's got to be your own boss mentality." He says, "Forcibly resigned from my last job because of no vax. Get new job with better pay and not requiring vax. 3, new job says everyone get vaxxed, even remotes." He says, "What I learned today is getting a programming degree has turned out to be a terrible decision because you can't escape the libtards." I hate that word. Be warned, friends, the hard word is worth it. Time to figure out his new main hustle. So, we need to get in here today, maybe, and help people figure out what their hustle is going to be. Um, you, we're in the early days of this stuff melting down. You're not going to have a six-figure income with Benny's working for the man anymore. You guys hear that breakfast sausage cooking? Yeah. Yeah, you're not going to have a six-figure income working for the man anymore. Those days are over. If you do have one, your days are numbered. Um, you're going to have to find a way to make a living. And I think we're all going to be poorer. I don't think that everything is going to collapse like a lot of people think it is. I think it's just going to be harder and poorer and dumber. Your electricity is going to blink on and off more, or off and on more. It's going to be harder to get things fixed. Skilled technicians are going to be harder to find. The Austrian economists are saying, "Oh, well, that'll make great demand for skilled." No, it's not. It doesn't work that way. Third world countries have an enormous demand for skilled technicians and highly skilled workers and motivated people, but the cultural underpinnings um, that that demand excellence, that demand reliability, that treasures sanitation, uh, is lacking or never was there in the third world country, and this is becoming a third world country. So it's just going to be harder and harder and harder. Um, one of my dear uncles says it's going to be like the 1930s. You're going to have a pair of work overalls, a pair of church overalls, and you get new shoes in September. Um, I think he's right. It's going to be something like that. But we're going to have to come up with our own incomes because these big businesses, they don't want any employees, let alone you. You know how I know they don't want any employees? Because I've owned businesses and I didn't want any employees. I had a number of employees that I treasured and liked and cared about as people. Um, but that's the human part of me. The business owner part of me, which was not human and is not human and cannot be human, resented them. They were a constant drain of resources and a huge problem. Now, a lot of people would say in their economics class that humans are in fact capital, and it would take issue with me on that. But humans aren't productive units. They are complex. They are productive units and a lot of other things as well. So these large companies, I promise you, do not want employees, and they're working around the clock to figure out how to not have them. So, what does that mean? Well, that means you're going to lose your job. Whether it's automation, a couple of years ago, this discussion would have been around AI and automations and robotics. That we've been having that discussion for, I don't know, probably since a little bit before World War II. Those pressures are still here. Globalism, of course, is a problem. I think globalism may in fact be coming to an end. And then just political movements are allowing employers to get away with uh, shedding employees. A lot of you are probably saying, "Oh, but I see help wanted signs everywhere I go." Yeah, go apply for those jobs, and then you tell me if they actually exist. Those jobs don't appear to actually exist in a lot of cases. There are some bloggers out there who applied for 2 jobs every single day of September and only got 2 callbacks. Um, when I had a company, that once we got to a certain size, we never stopped advertising job openings, even if we didn't have them, because you need to have the resumes on file. You need to be ready. You need to be ready to spool up whenever you need to spool up. And one of the ways you do that is to constantly court employees, whether you need them or not. So I think that a lot of these jobs don't exist. These openings don't exist. Go find out for yourself. Uh, Now that's on the entry end of the job market. I think in the middle, it may be a little different, and at the top, they don't exist. But those shortages in job openings are coming to a world near you. So you're going to have to get together a side hustle, which will eventually become your main hustle. You need a business. You need a way to get in touch with the final customer, charge them something, and collect those monies. Is anybody here working on such a thing? I know Justin is. He's in the chat here. He built himself a portable sawmill, and as a result, cut some lumber, made some lumber for himself. Well, you cut a tree into boards, and you don't necessarily have something usable yet. That has to be cured or dried, and you can do it in air, by stacking it under a shed loosely so the air can circulate around it. It takes um, I've heard a year per inch of thickness of a board to do that. Or you can put it in a kiln and do it quickly with either heat or a vacuum. And Justin saw that there was an opportunity there because he couldn't find anybody to kiln dry his lumber. And he is on the way to, I believe he's already got a purchase order in and has put a deposit on a new kiln, and he will be operating a kiln in his area. I think it's one of the best ideas I've heard in a long time. Last night, my wife and I and some friends went and ate at a Amish restaurant. These Amish people have a walk-out basement, and that entire basement is a restaurant. I think they're open 2 days a week, Friday and Saturday. They serve lunch and they serve dinner. It's about $15. They essentially serve peasant food, which is what mashed potatoes and gravy and green beans and a little roast beef and chicken and noodles and yeast rolls are. That's inexpensive, hearty food, and they charge $15 for that. And while we were there, they served 100 people in about an hour. So if their food cost is $5 and their net is 10, they did $1,000 in an hour on a Friday. It's a family business. They're open 2 days a week, and they also do the lunches. Well, they're going to have to pay their electricity bill, some insurances. They have to buy some equipment. They have a real life commercial kitchen. But my guess would be that they're clearing something over $1,000 a week on that as a family. Per hour invested in that, not invested, per hour expended in executing that. What does the hourly wage look like? I don't know. But I think we're getting to the point where that doesn't matter anymore. The point is that family has an income that is derived from dealing directly with clients, and it allows them to live the kind of life they want to live, without control from the HR department or really anyone else. And by many measures, the Amish and Mennonite people in my community are poor, but by all of the measures that matter, they are not. Their properties are paid for. They eat better than anybody. Their food is better, and they have more of it than anyone. Um, Man, I tell you, their women are good looking. The guys are hardy, and the women are good looking and fit, and they get to do what they want. They're having a really, really great life on their probably $50,000 to $70,000 household income for the year. Would be something like that. Would be my guess. That's not much if you're in Chicago, but if you're where they are, that's a gracious plenty. So I hope that you guys are trying to find out what your side hustle can be. I hope you're making sure you're out of debt, making sure that you're in a situation to um, making sure that you're in a situation that where you can go do that, where you can go do that. So I don't know. Let's see here. Do we have anything questions in the chat? We've got a bunch of people here that are doing that are kind of software developers are talking about that. Brandon asks, does business not wanting employees mean there's opportunity to jump on their desire to outsource work? For example, outsource website building, admin work, let the outsourced person be their own boss while the businesses avoid the overhead of hiring an employee. Possibly. There's been a lot of talk about the whole gig economy over the last 10, 15 years, of course. So maybe, but I don't think that actually changes your situation in a significant way. You're still going to be at the mercy of their policies. They can still tell you, forgive me as I get out some pots here. You'll still be at their mercy of their policies. You may be some sort of an admin person or whatever, doing work for a couple of different businesses on an outsourced basis, and they still send you a decree requiring you to get the vax. They send you a decree requiring you to come in and take their CRT training session, whatever. I don't think that those give us the independence that we need. And I think that I think those things are going to be short. Those gigs are going to be short-lived. I'm not sure that we'll have access to those in 5 years. I don't think so. Let's see here. Ian says peasant food can be the best food. Yeah, I think so. Well, it was really great last night. I mean, pot roast, mashed potatoes, gravy, green beans, and just perfectly done. It was simple, and it's precisely what it was. It didn't make any pretense at anything else. There was no fusion going on, but it was just perfectly done. It was great. Yep. Let's stick around here and see if there's any more questions or comments, or if anybody wants to brainstorm business ideas. We've thrown around a few in the Telegram chat. I don't want to really give anybody's idea away, although they're kind of regional. One guy was talking about installing smart home kind of equipment for bug men in a big city. That could be good. I hate all that shit, but if they want listening devices in their house, install them for them. Install them for them. That could be a good business. I had an employee a long time ago who installed like home theater systems and home audio visual systems, and had built a really nice business for himself out of that. So the smart home thing could be good as well. What else here? Does anybody else have any ideas? I don't really want to give anybody's away that were in the chat that were sort of that weren't regional. The smart home installation thing seems regional. So I didn't mind bringing that one up. I don't think I'm going to cause competition for anybody there. The guy says consider doing permaculture design. Yeah, that could be good. That could be good. That's that market's probably pretty small. That doesn't mean it can't be done, but that's going to be a slog. That one's going to be a slog. You're going to have to give away a lot of free content. You're going to have a YouTube channel. You have to blog all day, every day. That one's going to be tough. But business is tough. Life is tough. Creating is tough. So whatever, get on it. Get on it. Chopping onions here because I'm making chili for this evening. Chili that is going to be eaten at 6 p.m. must be started at 9 a.m. Otherwise, it won't be any good. Joseph says, I see people out here every morning selling burritos on the side of the road out of their card, cash only. Yes, indeed. How much income do you need? Now, don't be fucking fancy here. When you're thinking about this, dear listener, don't be fancy. How much income do you need every day if it's straight cash to have a life? There's a good chance that you can do that out of the back seat of your car selling tamales or whatever it is that you're good at. Nobody wants to think about it in this way, but that's just pride, I think, screwing with them. In the words of Wallace from Pulp Fiction. Jay says he was considering taxidermy. All the ones he knows are buried for at least a year. Yeah, that's true around here too. One of my uncle took in a black squirrel, which is a rare thing, to the taxidermist, and the guy said it would be 6 months before he would get it back. Or maybe he said it was longer than that. I don't know, but and he said, and that was probably a buddy deal because he'd taken it around to some other people, and they just blinked and looked at him like it wasn't going to happen. So around here, taxidermists are super, super busy too. Let's see my iPad. I'm recording this on my iPad. It locked up. Anything else? Well, some months ago, I said, heck, it was maybe a year ago. I can't remember. I don't know. But at some point in the past, I had put on my blog, and I think I had even done Scott streams about it, that you're going to have to go ahead and just kind of cancel yourself, right? Just find a way to make a living that isn't dependent on the monster, because they're going to get you. I think I wrote a blog post, something like, you can't fire me, I quit. I think that's what the name of it is, something like that, where I talk about you've got to get yourself in a situation where they can't hurt you economically. And I'm right. Again. Ian says he's considering doing food that way. Ian has a lot of kids, and he says, I have an army to prep, and my wife and I can both cook good, cheap food. Yeah, I think that could work. That could work for a while. Brandon says, general principle, I don't know how to apply. The first person strikes it rich in the gold rush was the one selling gold painting equipment. Here's my wife. She's pouting. I'm trying to determine what the near future equivalent of gold painting equipment may be. Any thoughts related to this? Yes. There will be no gold rush. There is no rush. In the United States, there's not going to be a sudden burst of economic activity in a particular sector. It is going to be the United States. It actually already is. We just haven't, nobody's paying attention yet. But it is going to become more and more a third world country with snow. So there is no gold rush. There's no gold rush. You've got to stop this perpetual economic growth mindset that the boomers gave you. There are a number of reasons why this is bullshit. One, even very small compounding taken over the fullness of time will consume everything in the universe. Economic growth, which requires capital, energy, space, natural resources. Economic growth, which has these requirements that I've named and others, even taken with a small compounding of 1.5%, 2% a year over the fullness of time, will consume everything in the cosmos. Economic growth has its bounds. I don't know if we're up against those bounds. I suspect that we could be. The bounds don't necessarily have to appear when all the oil is gone. But when the good farmland is already under tillage and we have to move to marginal farmland, if the energy that we obtain is more and more difficult to obtain, a sort of peak oil idea, if all of the smart people are already working and now you have to move to marginal low IQ people to fill your human resource requirements. I know that's in contradiction of what I was just saying, but you run out of the ability to have perpetual economic growth fairly quickly. I mean, I think 100 years of, 1%, 2%, 3% economic growth is probably about all that can be done. And if you look in the 1800s, there were decades where there was double-digit percentages of economic growth every year in those decades. So, we're kind of at the end of that. So this paradigm of economic growth, you're going to have to just get rid of it. I'm sorry. You can have a business, it can grow, but the idea that the economic outputs of the world or a nation are going to go up every year is it is absolutely an impossibility. Some retard like Elon Musk might tell you that technological advances and improvements in human capitals would just make that a reality again. I think his metaphysics are busted. I don't think he understands what things are and how things be when those sort of futurists make those kinds of claims. Brandon says, not talking about growth, just what people want when times are tough. Well, fair enough. That's not what you said. You were talking about a gold rush, and I don't think there is a gold rush. To your credit, though, you say, I thought about shoe repair and garden-related stuff as food gets expensive. That could be shoe repair. Although those guys are having a hard time. I know a shoe repairman in Tulsa who is really great. He's just a craftsman, and he doesn't work 40 hours a week because he doesn't have 40 hours a week worth of work. So I don't know. I don't know. Third world countries. Are they going to be buying Goodyear welt shoes that can be repaired? I don't know, man. I don't know. It's really going to be tough. But you're probably on the right track. He makes another suggestion here of gardening related stuff. Man, I bet you, if you became a nursery man and sold heirloom seeds, non-GMO heirloom seeds, not because they're heirlooms, but because they will the plants will reproduce from their own seeds. Because a lot of the plants that we get A lot of the plants that we get in the grocery store, like if you get a seed from a watermelon that you buy in the grocery store, chances are that seed will not produce a watermelon like the one you ate. So if you're somebody who sells those kinds of seeds, I think you could do, you might have a thing. There are some heirloom, quote unquote, heirloom seed companies out there and nurserymen, but there aren't enough. There aren't enough. Ian says, compounding, isn't that part of the problem with evil of usury? Yes. If you take compounding out to its furthest conclusion, it ends up being a monopoly game with very few people acquiring everything. I think I've talked about this on a blog. Yeah, if you borrow money and leave your real estate or some other asset as the collateral for that borrowing, if you go bankrupt, your lender gets the collateral. The collateral may be compromised. It might not be worth as much as the lender lent on it, but it is worth something. So the lender doesn't ever get zeroed out if he's careful. The borrower does. So if you write out a function, a mathematical function with a compounding interest, two mathematical functions with a compounding interest built in them, one of them can go to zero and the other one can't. You'll see that over time, the one that can never go to zero, no matter how slow the gains are, ultimately gets all of the poker chips. Yeah, that's why there was a Jubilee year in biblical times and beyond. That's why St. Thomas Aquinas and Hambrick hate usury. It should be illegal. Sorry, free market fags. Jay says, when he lived in the third world country, HVAC guys were millionaires. I don't doubt that. Coffee's good this morning. Working on this chili. I've browned up at least some of the meat. And now I'm browning up the onions. Browning up the onions. And we're going to have a really good pot of chili come dark. Hey, baby. Here's the wine. Well, be thinking about this, and more than thinking about it, be acting on this. The guy who's trying to come up with the perfect idea will never beat the guy that acts on an idea that's not quite as good. So, be sure you act. We can't all have the best idea, and the best idea for me ain't the best idea for you. So make sure that you're acting. We have to build. We're not gonna reform this thing. We're not gonna make it better. We've got to build. We got to do our own thing. I just spent the evening with some folks yesterday who have built their own thing, and they don't care about what everyone else is doing, and that's possible for all of us here. Charity, there's a sausage patty for you over here. You don't need it? Well, that means there's two for me then. Kyle Jenkins says, what style of chili is served in the Hambrick house? I don't know. I'm not familiar with the taxonomy of chilies. There's pork and beef in it. There are no beans in it. I make a roux for my chili. There's very little tomato in it. How about that? What does that make it? What does that make it? Joseph says, when we went through the hard time, we made sure to have the basics covered. That was the most important: food, water, heat, AC, utilities, reliable transportation. Yep, that's all you can do, That's all you can do when the stuff's tough. That's all you can do. And there's nothing wrong with that. Nothing in the world wrong with that. For almost all of human history, people were only able to take care of what was important. Let me ask you this. Let me pose it this way. Should people worry about taking care of things that aren't important? You know, what kind of society do you have if people spend all their time trying to quote unquote cover the things that aren't important? Well, that's what we've gotten. Good job. Good job, America. Yeah. So I'm out here in my kitchen and it's 50 degrees out here. What does it say, Charity? That's the temperature. 50? 52? She's saying it's 58. But our kitchen isn't heated or cooled. You know? Who cares? Who cares? Okay. Well, let's see here. I hadn't looked at the chat. See if anybody wanted to lift their hand up. No. There's Kirk. Hey, Kirk. Well, that's all I wanted to talk about this morning. If no one had anything in specific that they wanted to kick around and think about, talk about, pick apart. But get to work on those side hustles, guys. Get to work on those side hustles. I talked to a buddy of mine the other day. He says, you're always right. You're just 8 years too early. And I said, huh, that would be great because if I think I'm 3 years too early, but if I'm 8 years too early, that gives us a chance to get the kids up and running 100% before the complete Brazilianification of the country. I don't think we've got 8. By his own admission, this guy's a normie. He's like, well, I'm a normie, but I think you're 8 years early. You can imagine who that was, Jody. Jody's not listening. I'm not going to name
I'm
it.
reading.
That's okay.
No, what did you say?
I'm not going to retell the whole thing while I'm on here.
Oh.
Yeah, I'm going to put this on. I'll put this out of the Scotch stream here in a little bit. Okay. Well, I'm going to eat my breakfast and finish putting this chili on, and then I'm going to go work on some things I've got to be working on. A good friend of mine comes out every Saturday morning. He'll be here soon. And we're going to go work on moving the ball down the field. All right. Go to scotthambrick.com, get on my email list for when they nuke us and we can't talk anymore. Okay. So go do that. I'll talk to you soon.